Welcome back to chapter 12, where we are talking about the special senses or the senses. Um, this is video 2. Last video, we ended up talking about the touch and pressure receptors. Now we're going to talk about your temperature senses. So, your temperature receptors are thermal receptors. These are free nerve endings in the skin. There are two different types of thermal receptors. You have warm receptors and cold receptors. The warm receptors are sensitive to any temperature above 77 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm using Fahrenheit since we're in the US. It's unresponsive to temperatures above 113 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold receptors are sensitive to temperatures between 50 degrees Fahrenheit and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so yes, you do need to know those temperatures where the warm receptors and the cold receptors are receiving information. Pain receptors then kick in. So anything below that 50 degrees Fahrenheit or anything above that 113 degrees Fahrenheit, your uh, your temperature receptors, your thermoreceptors are no longer in control. After that, above or below those numbers, your pain receptors kick in and it will produce either a burning sensation or a freezing sensation. So the sense of pain. Pain receptors, also known as nociceptors, consist of free nerve endings. Pain receptors are widely distributed throughout the body. The nervous tissue of the brain lacks pain receptors. Basically, what that means is that if there was damage in your brain itself, you would not know it because there are no pain receptors inside of the brain. So if someone has a headache, it's not because it's not caused by a problem in the brain. It's caused by something outside of the brain, because there are no pain receptors inside of the brain. If a person had a tumor, they wouldn't know that they had the tumor there because there are no pain receptors there unless and until that tumor grew to a size that it started to uh, encroach upon, push on, crush some other structure and cause some other deficit. But the nervous tissue of the brain lacks pain receptors. Your nociceptors are stimulated by tissue damage, chemicals, mechanical forces, or extreme temperatures and oxygen deficiency. So pain is not just tissue damage. You can also get it from other causes. This is why if you touch a toxic chemical, whether or not it causes tissue damage. So let's say you start to inhale ammonia, that will generally hurt your nose. That's because the nociceptor in your nose is picking up on those chemicals in the environment. Mechanical forces, those are physical forces that are pulling, pushing, twisting your body parts. Extreme temperatures, we already talked about that, and oxygen deficiency. It hurts when your body doesn't have oxygen and it can't produce energy. Um, Nociceptors adapt very little, if at all. Remember, you have sensory adaptation where if a stimulus is occurring continuously, eventually your nervous system stops sending that signal or decreases the amount of signal that's being sent to the central nervous system because that's not information that you need. But if you are in pain, the nociceptors will not adapt. If they do, it's only very little because the pain is the signal that something else is happening, something is going wrong, and it is the signal that you should probably do something about what's happening, what's going wrong in that area. So this is why there's very little, if any, adaptation of nociceptors. So in order to treat pain, this is how pain is treated. All right. About 25% of people alive, which 1/4 of the population, have moderate to severe pain. So in our classroom, if there are 40 people in our classroom, at minimum, 10 people as an average will have some type of moderate or severe pain at a given time. Those are the averages of how many people have pain at a time. So the way pain is treated, you have several different options. Non-steroidal inflammatory drugs. Non-steroidal inflammatory drugs. You would have seen this as NSAIDs. NSAIDs are medications like aspirin, ibuprofen. All right, so aspirin and ibuprofen are under the category of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, meaning these are drugs that cause a decrease in inflammation, but it's not a steroid. NSAIDs. NSAIDs can cause GI irritation, like damage to the stomach if they're taken often, which eventually, if people keep taking it, can lead to ulcers in the stomach. So, GI irritation. Opiates are another class of drugs that are used for pain. Opiates tend to be a little bit stronger. The problem is that they are much more addicting than any of these others. So it may decrease your pain, but then you may be addicted to the medication itself. You have acetaminophen, which is not addicting, and it does not cause GI irritation. So there won't be any stomach irritation, possible bleeding, GI ulcers, but it can damage the liver. So taking too much acetaminophen over time can destroy your liver. Reformulation efforts are producing smaller particles that dissolve faster and relieve pain faster. So basically, they're looking into ways that these medications can be reformulated so that the molecules of the medication can be much smaller, which will allow it to go into the body faster and help to relieve the pain faster. So that is something that scientists are working on now. For chronic pain, pain that is continuous and unrelenting, it doesn't go anywhere, the treatments will include NSAIDs, so those non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, exercises, actually moving the body. As you exercise, you start to release neurotransmitters and hormones, something like your endorphins, etc., serotonin, all of those that can help to relieve pain. You can get injections into muscles. You can get injections into joints. You can get antidepressants. So sometimes antidepressants can decrease pain. You have TENS unit. TENS unit is TENS stands for transcutaneous. So trans, across, cutaneous, skin. So transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. This is a machine that sends electrical stimulations to the nerves through the skin. And by doing that, it can help to decrease pain. And then there's the nerve block. This is basically where they go in and take something like an injection of a medication, deposit it all around a nerve. The medication, typically you will have something like an anesthetic maybe. So they put it around that nerve or that nerve ending so that that nerve can no longer receive and send information. And in essence, you're blocking the nerve from sending the pain signal. So these are the different ways that a person can treat pain. Now let's talk about visceral pain. Pain receptors are the only receptors in the viscera whose stimulation produces sensations. So organs have many different types of receptors. Remember, you have chemoreceptors, you have stretch receptors, you have proprioceptors. All of those are receiving information about changes in the environment and changes to the organ. But the pain receptors are the only receptors in the organs that produce a sensation. So if your body is, say your blood vessels are being stretched because you have more water in it, you don't necessarily feel that stretching. Your body just responds to it. Whereas if there was any kind of damage caused to the vessel, then the pain receptor would send that sensation information to the brain. Pain receptors in the viscera respond differently to stimulation than those on surface tissues. Visceral pain may feel as if it's coming from some other part of the body. That's called referred pain. So, an example of that is when people are having problems with their heart, when people are having heart attack, they may or may not feel it in their chest. They may or may not feel it in their chest first. Usually they'll feel it up and down their left arm. Remember, your heart is not in your arm. So the reason why you're feeling heart attack pain in your arm is because of this referred pain, right? So referred pain. Visceral pain may feel like it's coming from some other part of the body. That is referred pain. The heart pain is the example. So, referred pain results from common nerve pathways in which sensory impulses from the visceral organ and a certain area of the skin synapse with the same neuron in the central nervous system. So, remember when we talked about neurons or nerves being bundles of nerve fibers that are, or nerve axons that are put together, that are bundled together. So let's say the neurons that are coming from the heart end up sharing information with the neurons that are coming from the arm. The place where they meet upper in the closer to the nervous system, the central nervous system, the place where they meet, that information is sent along that neuron to the brain. Remember, the body will then project that information back down to where the pain is coming from. But in this case, because that nerve is being shared by both, let's say, the heart and the arm, we feel that pain in both the chest and up and down the arm because of these common nerve pathways. So here's an example of referred pain, or the chart of referred pain. So here in this dark red orange color, this is the heart. So if you have heart pain, the referred pain will be down the left arm. If you have problems with your lung and your diaphragm, you may feel that in your neck. If you have problems with the liver or gallbladder, you may feel that in the neck, especially for the liver gallbladder, because the liver and gallbladder are on the right side of the body. You'll generally feel that on the right side of the neck. That's why you have the green lines only on the right side, and not on the left side, but on the right and left side, you'll have this orange color because you can have lung and diaphragm sensations on both sides of the neck because you have lungs on both sides of the chest, and your diaphragm extends to through both sides of the thoracic cavity. Let's see. Kidney pain. Kidneys are located in the back of the body, right around there, but the kidney pain itself can be all the way down the back of your body, the front of your body, and the lateral aspects of the upper leg. So those are examples of referred pain. Pain pathways. Pain pathways. So there are two types of axons that conduct impulses away from the pain receptors. Two type of axons conducting impulses away from the pain receptors. You have fast pain fibers, you have slow pain fibers. So fast pain fibers are A delta fibers. They are myelinated. Remember, anything that's myelinated is going to send a signal faster through the neuron. So it conducts that pain rapidly, up to 30 milliseconds. All right, 30 milliseconds. It's associated with sharp pain or acute pain in a localized area of the skin, and it usually stops as soon as the stimulus stops. So if you were to step on a tack, you know that you're stepping on a tack, you know exactly what part of the foot it's in, and you will receive that information very quickly. And then as soon as you step off the tack, usually the pain will stop, that stimulus will stop. I mean, if there's tissue damage, of course, then now you got the pain, the information about the tissue damage, but the pain from actually having the tack in or on your foot will stop. Slow fibers are C fibers. These are unmyelinated. Already you know that unmyelinated neurons send signals slower than myelinated neurons. So the impulse is conducted slowly, so up to 2 milliseconds. Um, It's associated with dull, aching, and chronic pain. It's difficult to localize. So if you or somebody would say, where's the pain? I'm not sure. I know it's somewhere generally on the left side, maybe my upper part of my body, but I just cannot quite figure out where exactly it is. That's probably because it is a slow pain fiber, a C fiber that is unmyelinated. Um, the pain often continues after the stimulus stops. In the brain, most pain fibers will synapse in the reticular formation and proceed to the thalamus, hypothalamus, and cerebral cortex. So these are the pain pathways. Proprioception. The proprioceptors are mechanoreceptors that send information to the CNS about the body position. It also sends information about the length and tension on a skeletal muscle. So the main types of proprioceptors are your Pacinian corpuscles. So we already talked about that. These are your deep pressure receptors. So we looked at it in the skin so that if we sat down, we actually felt it, or if somebody grabbed an arm, we can feel that pressure because it's deep pressure. But these are also located in the joints, so that if there is some change in the position of the joint, meaning there's an increase or decrease in the joint angle, then your Pacinian corpuscles will receive that information. You have muscle spindles. Muscle spindles are stretch receptors inside of skeletal muscles. You know that the job of skeletal muscles is to um, contract and to relax or expand. So you can flex them, you can extend them. And so inside of those muscles, when a muscle is stretched, those muscle spindles are receiving that information about the stretch in the muscle, and it can initiate a stretch reflex in which the spindle stretch causes the muscle to contract. So when you get when the doctor does the patellar reflex, takes the hammer and hits it just distal to the patella and your lower leg extends, that is because these muscle spindles are receiving information about stretch from that tendon and that muscle, and it is causing the response of contraction. Then you have your Golgi tendon organs. Golgi tendon organs. These are also stretch receptors that are located in the tendon. I think I misspoke. Muscle spindles are located in the muscles themselves. Golgi tendon organs are in the tendons. So when a muscle is stretched, you are not only stretching the muscle fibers, but you're also stretching and pulling on the tendons that tie those muscles to the bones. So in the muscles, you have the muscle spindles. In the tendons, you have the Golgi tendon organs. Um, and both of them are receiving information about stretch. So the Golgi tendon organs stimulate reflexes that oppose the stretch reflexes. So this stimulates um, a contraction, right? So the opposite of stretching is more of a compressing or contracting. So this is what helps maintain posture. So if the wind blows or if you're moving, your body is moving, it will help your erector muscles to hold your body in place and shift and adjust which part of the erector muscle needs to tighten and contract in order to help you to maintain your posture. It also helps to protect the muscle attachments from being pulled loose. So if the muscle is stretched too much, the Golgi tendon organ will then cause the muscle to contract so that it's protecting the muscle from being overstretched. So your muscle spindles inside of the muscle tissue itself, Golgi tendon organ are in the tendons that are associated with the muscle fibers. So this one is telling you Golgi tendon organ is inside the tendon. Muscle spindles are inside of the muscles. Visceral senses. So visceral senses, you have receptors in your internal organs that convey information that include the sense of fullness after eating a meal, discomfort of having gas in your GI tract, and the pain that signals a heart attack. All of those are sensations that come from specific organs due to visceral senses. Special senses. All right. So your special senses are, again, those senses that we typically think of as senses. These are smell, taste, hearing, and equilibrium, and sight. Um, These are senses that have sensory receptors with large, complex sensory organs in the heads. So your smell receptors are because of the nose and the nasal cavity. So those sensory organs, those receptors, are located in the nasal cavity. The taste buds are located in the tongue. So large, complex sensory organ in the head, and this one is the tongue, the taste buds on the tongue. Hearing and equilibrium, that would be the vestibulocochlear organ in the inner ear. And for sight, you have the eyes. So now let's talk about synesthesia. Synesthesia is actually an extremely, at least to me, it's an extremely interesting disorder where you have sensations that are joined together. So, this is a condition in which the brain interprets one stimulus for another, or one sensation for another. For example, if I look at if I smell paint, I may say that paint smells blue. For a person with synesthesia, a smell might be interpreted as a color. So a certain smell, the paint, might smell blue, even if the paint is not blue. 1 in every 2,000 people have this condition, and it is there for a lifetime. It is common in creative people. So people who are more right brain, people who are more spatially aware, people who are more artistic, tend to have more synesthesia than those who are more logic driven. It's caused by genetic mutation. There are 4 genes in the human genome that have been identified as being mutations that can cause synesthesia. The most common form of synesthesia is grapheme. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but we're going to call it grapheme color type synesthesia. Grapheme color type synesthesia, in which letters or numbers or time will evoke certain colors. So let's say if a person sees the number 4, it looks like green. Or if it's 4 o'clock, it'll be green, right? So grapheme color type synesthesia, letters, numbers, and time will evoke certain colors. Then you have lexical gustatory synesthesia. Make sure you're looking up the word lexical, look up the word gustatory, look up grapheme so that you can know what these words mean when you see them. So in lexical gustatory synesthesia, a name evokes the perception of a strong taste or smell. So let's say you say the name Adam. Anytime that person hears the name Adam, they might taste biscuits. They might taste biscuits. Or if somebody says the name Daphne, they might smell oranges because of lexical gustatory synesthesia. We're going to stop there and continue on with the next video.